If you'd like to contact the show, send us an email at liveonfourlegspodcast@gmail.com or follow us on any of our social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Live on Four Legs Podcast and on Twitter at Live on Four Legs Pod.
1, 2, 3, 4. I seem to recognize we just played that one. That's a small town mosquito. Oh, you've been forgiving Americans for years, I'm sure you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. And away we go.
You're listening to Live on Four Legs, the live Pearl Jam podcast experience, featuring
Mr. Stone Gossard. Gentlemen! Mama Queen! Matt fucking Cameron in the drum. Mr. Boom Gasper! You can call me Al, you can call me Ed, you just fucking call me, why don't you?
Hey everybody now, welcome to Live on Four Legs, the definitive live Pearl Jam podcast, whether you're tuning in for the first time, the second time, or the 81st time, because it's our 81st episode. Welcome back everybody. What we do on every episode, if this is your first time tuning in, is we go through a show in the history of Pearl Jam, and we'll discuss some of the great moments, some of the songs, and some of the things that make Pearl Jam sets so perfect, so great. This is why we love the band, and we share our love with all of you out there. So we are continuing on with our Around the World series, and we are hitting France. We have been in Europe for a couple of months now, and nothing's really going to change because we wanted to try to hit every single European country that there is, and we thought we were close to the end. I checked and I counted the countries. We have about 8 countries left, so that's quite a bit of shows, but you know what? They're all really good shows that we have planned and good places. We still have England we got to do. We still have a really important one that we're going to do for Ireland and a couple other places, Netherlands and Switzerland. So, hang on. It's going to be good. Italy is going to be on there too. So, I think we're getting to the meat and potatoes of all this. So, John is absent this week. We thank him for taking a little break so we can invite 2 veterans of the show back. And one of them used to be a former co-host. I think most of you that have been tuning in from day one remember him as Matt Helbig, the one who, wants Big Wave every single time we do a show and came back that one time that we did Big Wave. So welcome back, Matt. It's great to have you back.
Is it bad to say that listening to Big Wave on that episode kind of it wasn't disappointing. It was just not as exciting as I hoped it would be.
Well, I think you've actually seen the light that, you're one in very, very few people that can actually have this, sentimental attachment to that song, because almost nobody does. But that's what also makes your appearance on the show unique every time you come on.
It's sentimental, but I think I realized that it's fine. My classic "It's fine" quote. Right?
Happy to have in class.
Up when I finally heard it. Happy to have it. Yeah. I mean, I would love to hear it live, but hearing it live in that show is like, well, all right, it's fine.
But you know what? We haven't covered it since, so the next time we do get to do it, maybe it's a better version, and we'll bring you back for that. And we don't have that in this show. It's the same era, but we're not there on this one.
Right, but spoiler free, we do have another one of my all-time favorites on this one, which is great. So I'm excited to get to it.
I actually don't know off the top of my head which one it is, so. Yeah,
really?
hang on to that thought. Well, there's so much in the show.
There's actually a few favorites.
I know what it's not.
This one's great.
I know what it's not. I'll put it that way. I know what it's not. So
yeah. Let's kick the show right off.
Trust me, there'll be plenty to talk about with that. So we have another guest on the show as well. He hasn't been on in a very, very long time, and that is my fault because I want him on as much as humanly possible. He's a terrific guest. He is a brother of ours, specifically Matt's because, they are blood related. Me, I'll take a blood oath if I have to, but not my preferred way of doing things. I think
not in pandemic season, Randy.
No. Imagine we take a blood oath right now, and we're just like, that's it. We're done. We're out.
Start it all over again.
Yeah,
that wouldn't be great.
So welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show, I should say, Steve Maytan. It's been over a year, and we're happy to have you back, and you're going to tell some great stories on today's episode.
Man, I couldn't believe it when I was looking up. When I was looking on Skype, I very rarely use Skype these days, and
even though you have like 9 accounts.
Yeah, I do have many accounts as well. But when I was looking at it and I saw that our last call together was over a year ago, I couldn't believe it. It does not seem like it was that long. It's crazy.
Yeah, man, numbers keep falling on the calendar floor, every day it just continues to go on and on and on. And we probably had you on last. We were in 35 episodes or something. And now
I think so. Yeah.
We're sort of now on the road to 100. So this is wild. We've been going on with this for a while, but you were on the 5th ever episode. You were our first I should say our first guest. I was going to say our first non-Matterai guest, but I think guest works just as well. And you were the only guest for a couple of times in the beginning, and now you're back. And this is how we envisioned the show a very long time ago, that the three of us were just going to sit here and just goof off and talk about Pearl Jam for an hour and a half. And that's what we get to do today, thankfully. So, all right, Marseille, France, 2006. I'm just going to let you get into it, and you are a fantastic storyteller. I'm going to let you do your thing. So, tee them all up here. This is the first of 4 shows that you did in Europe that year, and there's a reason why you went to these shows. So, let's start with that.
Oh boy. Okay, so I'll just get things started, Randy, and I'll kind of just tell the story up until the show kicks off, if you want, and then
please do. Yeah.
Just interrupt as you need to. So this story actually starts on Cinco de Mayo of the same year, 2006. My brother Matty and I had stayed online.
Was it really Cinco de Mayo? It wasn't the day that Avocado.
That was no.
Cinco de Mayo was Cinco de Mayo was the date of the Irving Plaza show. So
right.
We were online. I think it was May 2nd was when
Avocado
came out.
Right. Okay, that's what confused me. Okay, carry on.
That was we stayed online at it was Tower Records, right, Matt?
Yeah, the old Tower Records.
Yeah, Tower Records.
They were still open. Yeah.
Yeah, Tower Records in Manhattan. And we actually recruited one of my best friends, John, to take a third spot in line so that we could get 3 tickets. Waited online, all day until the album was actually released. And when you bought the album, you got the ticket to the Irving Plaza show.
First 1,500 people, of course, we must say.
Exactly.
You got to make it sound super exclusive here, Steve. People come to this podcast with some really amazing accomplishments, and right. I feel like this is ours, so we should mention that.
Even though I was listening,
You're making the story even more painful, Matt. So
That's what I'm here for tonight.
I was listening to one of the other Pearl Jam podcasts, and they did say that both hosts who didn't know each other at the time were both at this show. So that's
really?
4 in 1,500 that
yeah.
you can say that's pretty good odds right there. I'm sure we know more.
I don't feel special anymore. Thanks.
Especially in the podcaster community.
The odds are now against us. Okay.
Anyway, carry on.
So, yeah. So, to make a long story a little bit shorter at this point, we the actual show was Cinco de Mayo, and I was dating someone for a very short period of time at that point. We just started going out, and we went out to dinner before the show, and we went for Mexican food because it was Cinco de Mayo, and I had a little bit too much by way of tequila, and I basically do not remember the Irving Plaza show at all. I have snippets of memories here and there, but not very much of the show at all. So the next day, I realized what had happened, and I was so irritated with myself, but also that I have no memory of this awesome experience. I decided that I needed to have another experience to take its place, and that's when I started looking for shows in Europe that I could go to. And the stretch that worked the best for, I think it was like my work schedule and things like that at the time, were these 4 shows: the Marseille, Paris, Bern, and Bologna. So wound up getting plane tickets. I got 10 club tickets for, I think it was 10 club tickets for all 4 shows. The time came, we flew out. The same young lady who I was dating at the time, who I stopped dating when I met my wife, my now wife. We flew out to Europe, and Marseille was the first show, obviously. We flew into Paris, then took the train to Marseille, had the day in Marseille to kind of just hang out and see the city a little bit. Marseille is not nearly as nice, for lack of a better term, a city as Paris, but it was a lot more interesting, I think. There was a lot of stuff that I didn't expect to see as far as street merchants and things like that. It was a very, very cool city to go to. We got checked into the hotel, dropped off our bags, and went to the venue. And one of the reasons why this show specifically, besides the fact that it was the first one we saw on the trip, one of the reasons why it has a special place for me is because the way that the doors opened to the venue, general admission, everybody has to go in and kind of just go. They kind of move you along. And the way the doors opened to the venue, the doors were on Stone's side. So as you walked in, the security kept you moving down towards Mike's side. But because of the way we were positioned in line, we actually got to be on Stone's side. And out of all 4 shows, Stone's my favorite. I prefer to be on Stone's side. But out of all 4 shows, this was the only one that I got to be on Stone's side for the whole tour. So, for the whole 4 shows. So that was pretty awesome to have my first. And of course, obviously, at the time I didn't know it was going to be the only show where I'd get to be on Stone's side, but it wound up being that way, and it was pretty great. And for some reasons that we'll talk about later on in the set, I think.
So this night is probably not the night that you got the McCready pick then, right? Because I know you got a McCready pick on your European tour, right?
Yeah, I got a McCready pick in Bern. And the Bern show, I was right on the rail. I was directly in front of Mike. It was ridiculous how close I was in the Bern arena. That was great. So I was probably one person back from the rail in Marseille, but still pretty close to the stage.
What was the venue like? Because I can't imagine that Marseille arenas are packing that much more than 7,000-8,000 people.
Oh, no, I do not even think it was that many. It might, maybe, but it was small. It was, if I had to guess, I don't really know, and you know how memory works. It's not perfect. So this is 15 years ago, but if I had to guess, I'd say there's probably 4,000 or 5,000 people there. It was the whole lower level was. I mean, there's no seats or anything like that. It wasn't like it was like an MSG where they took the seats out or something like that. And,
Right.
You know, it was like a really, really large auditorium. There was no seats on the bottom level. I never tried to go up to the top level, so I don't know if there were seats up there, but it was just like one big floor, hardwood floor, and then the top, the top kind of going around the stage. The whole thing was set up to face the stage, so there was nothing behind for anybody to sit behind or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, the reason why I asked that, because you listen back to the bootleg and you can audibly hear individual voices in the crowd. It's not often that you get that, but you can hear just like people off in the distance be like, this way.
Dude, the freaking, the guy that yells out Eddie Vedder every 5 minutes was, if this set and show was
probably the only two words he knew in English.
It probably was. If this show and set wasn't so damn good, I would have turned it off and said I couldn't do this, because it was like after every single song.
Yeah,
it was driving me crazy.
And the space between the rail and the actual stage, the security guards, like, they might have been able to fit like two people, like stage, one person, two person, second person, and then rail. Like the rail was almost at the stage. It was like ridiculously close. Yeah.
What was the crowd control like? Was there a lot of movement in the crowd? Because I didn't hear them at one point in this show say, hey, careful, watch it, because usually with shows that are really close to the stage, they're looking around and making sure that everybody is good to one another. So the crowd was pretty good here.
Yeah, the European shows that I've been to 5. The one in Paris doesn't really count because it was a much bigger stadium. It was, that was like an MSG type size stadium. So there was no like general admission or anything for that, or at least none that I got. But the 4 shows that I've done general admission in Europe, the people are so much nicer and like more well behaved, for lack of a better term. Like there was no.
It's because we're animals here.
There was no pushing. Nobody was trying to get to the front. Nobody was like, there was no, no struggle or anything. Everybody just like staked out their spot. If somebody was like really tall, they would kind of like try to work with the people around them to make sure that everybody could see. Like it was just a much more cordial, nice thing. And I don't know if I've just been super lucky at the shows that I've been to, or, people in Europe just have a different outlook as far as, concerts and Pearl Jam concerts specifically, but it was not like that at all. No, there was never did there have to be any sort of intervention or, hey, calm down, or, anything along those lines. It was awesome.
Right. And you're also in 4 places that aren't necessarily Pearl Jam hotbeds. Bern, Switzerland. Right. I don't know how many times they went to Bern. I think they're supposed to go to Bern or Zurich this year. I can't remember which one it was. It might have been Zurich. Paris isn't even that big of a hotbed of former Pearl Jam shows. There's a couple in like the very early 90s, but you don't really hear about a lot of good Paris shows unless Aurelian is telling you about them, which usually he's talking about shows from the Netherlands or London. So, that a Frenchman is, that's where he stands with it. But yeah, none of these 4 really stand out to me. The ones, like I said, London and Amsterdam and a couple of those other places that are the Berlin. Like I think of those ones and I think, okay, maybe the crowd is going to get really energetic. Maybe there's going to be a little bit of a problem, but I couldn't see that in Marseille. Not at all. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Right. Yeah, no, the crowd was awesome. It was a lot of fun. And even the security guards that sometimes get maligned, they were all super cool. Like they were talking to people in between sets, giving out water, because it was very warm in there, in the venue. So, everybody was just awesome.
All right. So cool little insight into, like what was going on and, what the arena was like. That was good stuff. And at the time, look, 2006 is their longest tour that they've had. Like, they've never done a tour like this in a year since 2006. I think they did somewhere along the lines of 40 dates in the US, and then this European tour was about 25, I think, and then they did a bunch in Australia and Hawaii. I think that amounted to about 16. So you're getting 80 some odd dates that they're doing all in 1 year, and they've never really amounted to that in later years. You know, the 2010 when they were touring for Backspacer, you know, maybe the Backspacer US tour ended up being 15, 16 dates, something like that, and then they went out to Europe and did about 10 in Europe. And then Lightning Bolt, the same thing. They did probably 15 and 15 on the East and the West Coast, and that was about it. So this is a pretty big year for them, and really the last of its kind. So you're getting something kind of very special, as we'll talk about within this show, what happens and what goes on, you know, especially for the time, things that you don't see, and maybe some of those things are more common to see nowadays, but you know, some very rare stuff that we'll get into all of it. We'll talk about all of it, and we'll start the session now. This is where we kick off here, Long Road. And I know you're such a huge fan of Long Road, Steve. Every time I think of Long Road, or every time I think of like you and Pearl Jam songs that I associate with you, like that's number one or number two. And this version, and it's just kind of crazy that they're opening with this in a show that you're covering with us, but this version is so much different than usual Long Roads, because usually they have this, you know, slow build open, and it's kind of, you know, it's a little bit solemn, it's a little bit, you know, it's more emotional, but this is just these heavy drums that Matt's beating on here, and the pacing is a lot faster.
And I wish for so long, can I stay? All the precious moments, can I stay? It's not like wings have fallen, can I say? Without you something's missing, can I say?
Having more fun with this than I ever heard them on Long Road ever before. I want to know what you thought.
Yeah, so I totally agree. This for me to like go in and have this like level of excitement that I already had to be at these shows, which was already just unbelievably high, right? I could not have been more excited. I'd never been to Europe before, right? So all of this thing was like just a crazy experience to begin with. And then they opened with my absolute favorite opener, and they do it in this unique way. It was amazing, and it just set the stage for such an awesome night. You couldn't ask for anything more, really.
I might be Steve's brother, but I'm slightly the opposite on this song. I will agree that this song was definitely like, how do I put this? It was actually surprising to hear because, you know, Steve says it was a much smaller crowd, and you know, maybe not in Europe. They might not be too crazy or wild in the pit, as we would call it here in America, but they sounded like they were really amped up as a crowd, like happy to be there, which I feel kind of lent a hand to this more rock version of Long Road, which I liked. I still don't love the song. I just never loved the song. But it felt like they were like, okay, let's do this song, but let's push it a little bit. I feel like there's a contrast with how I feel like Eddie was feeling that night, which I'll get to kind of as we go. But this is the more high energy feeling that I get from Eddie from this night, which worked pretty well as an opener.
Yeah, and you know what the crazy thing about Long Road as just being an opener and just being a song in general is that it has this sort of aura or mystique to it where when you hear those opening chords, it kind of transports you to a different location, or you kind of forget that you're surrounded by, 1,000 some odd sweaty bodies that are surrounded by you. But this here, when it's sped up in some of these songs that you talk about sometimes, like A State of Love and Trust, that are sped up a little more and not their album version, you lose a little bit of its luster, a little bit of its mystique, and this version of Long Road doesn't do that at all. I think it adds a little bit of extra emphasis, and I think, like you said, it sort of sets a tone for the night and especially what they're going to do within the first 6 or 7 songs right here, where it's
which
really
is like literally the best first 6 or 7 songs I've heard in a long time.
Yeah, I can't think of much better. We've done a lot of really, really good ones lately, but this transition in from Long Road to Why Go, I actually thought, like, usually you kind of separate the release or the Long Road or the Oceans from the opener, the opener section, and say, okay, that was kind of the warm up. Here's where they kick in and get into the harder stuff. But I felt like Long Road was a part of that, which is something that I usually don't think, especially with a song that is so much different than a Why Go into Evolution, Severed Hand. It doesn't really, with the recorded versions, doesn't fit in that mold, but man, they find a way to do it, and it's perfect.
To start the show that way, especially, I mean, Long Road, Evolution, and Severed Hand. I don't get me wrong, I love Why Go, but those 3 of those 4 songs are 3 of my favorite Pearl Jam songs, especially at the time. So to kick off the show like that was really unreal. And again, like I said, I was already in a headspace of like, I can't even believe that I'm here right now. So to get a show going like that was amazing. And yeah, it was almost like, man, are we going to be able to pace ourselves for however long they play? We're still pretty jet lagged. We had only been in Europe for like, I don't know, 26 hours or so at the time when the show started. So,
and these are all like back to back dates, kind of, right?
Yeah, we had the longest time in between, I think, was 2 days that we stayed in one spot because I think we got a couple days in Paris, but otherwise we was like show and then train for several hours, and then show and then train and then show and then train, and then train back to Paris to fly home. So yeah, it was a whirlwind for sure.
There was a show that we covered recently where Ed said, I'm noticing all the same people in the front row here, and you guys should start a band because you got this touring thing down pat. It's that you get to kind of feel what the band is going through when they go from venue to venue. Obviously, they're not taking the train or anything, and they got luxury buses and all that, but it's still the same sort of mentality. So, but man, I mean, you have to continue on here. Why Go, Evolution, Severed Hand, Corduroy, whipping immediately after Corduroy. And it's not like this version of Corduroy is not an average, hey, that was fun Corduroy. This is a pretty kick-ass Corduroy here. And you would think that some of the stuff that Mike is doing, he's not doing anything too flashy, but he's busting out some delay effect stuff, and the storytelling with his guitar is just masterful. It's really the second voice in the band. But from all of that, I would think to myself, like, okay, I need a little bit of a breather. And then they go into the fastest version of whipping that I've ever heard in my entire life. I don't know how, after those 6 songs, you're keeping up and you're keeping pace with this. Because, man, that is a lot.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot. But again, I think a large part of it, the crowd was so into it as well, that there was just so much energy. The crowd, the band, everybody was so into it. It didn't feel tiring. Like for me, who'd been to several, I don't remember, I think this was like my 18th or 19th show, something like that, I think. I could be wrong, but something like that. Like I knew, I know how long Pearl Jam shows are. So I was kind of like, man, is this, are we gonna be able to keep this up? And am I gonna be able to keep this up? I'm tired. But I think everybody else was so into it. Maybe they, like you said, they're not, real Pearl Jam fans in the sense that they listen to all the bootlegs and they, track set lists and all that stuff. They might not know how long shows were expected to be. So they were everybody just being so crazy in a good way, along with, with the band. I really didn't feel as fatigued as I might if I was seeing another show.
Well, it also doesn't really feel like a long show either. I was surprised at how easy this was to listen to.
This was rather quick. Yeah, this was a quick listen.
It's really quick, but enjoyable. Like, Randy, how many times have I said, like, Why Go needs to be either 1 or 2 or last, and it's number 2 here, and it's incredible. And what I like about this is, like, they're doing a lot of, like, flip-flop stuff, like Do the Evolution number 3. There is nobody off in 2006. This is the prime example of the band, and Severed Hand and Corduroy specifically. Cameron is singing the entire Severed Hand.
The backup vocals
stop,
are
it is
intense.
Dead on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, Randy, I really liked what you said about Corduroy, about kind of Mike telling like a story here with his guitar. I think this was the best drumming on a Corduroy that I've ever heard. And I think Cameron is kind of telling his own story as well.
Unbelievable. The Lamborghini,
really was.
The Lamborghini analogy is the first and only thing that comes to my mind. He's absolutely just motoring through this.
100%. How many times have we heard Corduroy? 10 billion times. I listened to this Corduroy like at least 6 or 7 times. I loved it so much.
Yeah, like I said, this was not your everyday average Corduroy, which again brings to afterwards when they hit into whipping. You're just like, whoa, damn. And they're still just on the ball with it. And whipping is what? A 2.5-minute song where they're absolutely motoring through it. And the band's like,
but it's good, but it's good too.
Right.
It's not messy. They're not speeding it up.
Not even for 2006. This is for any Pearl Jam show. I would take this in a heartbeat. This is, you're getting the crowd riled up, and really when Ed kind of stops and talks, he doesn't talk a lot in the show. He doesn't really know French too well. He knows a couple other different languages. And I think 2006 is probably when he started. He was like, okay, we got another 10, 15 years where we're going to be going to Europe a lot. I need to learn how to speak the native language. but he doesn't talk a whole lot in the show. Most of these are just, you know, in one song out in the other, in one out in the other, and you know, not a lot of wasted time at all, and maybe that's why it feels so fast.
I honestly thought the bootleg might have been edited.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. It's seamless, but we've heard. I've fallen asleep sometimes in between songs, and
right.
This was just like, oh my god, this was a pleasure.
Right. A little Red Mosquito coming after that little section of, you know, finishing with whipping. And you see what they did with Red Mosquito. They kind of, you know, we've covered some versions of Red Mosquito lately, like that Berlin 96 version, which might be one of the best versions of any song out there. And it's just full speed ahead. It's full blast. It's, you know, Mike so intense and Jack on the drums. Everybody's in it. And, you know, we talked about that in a past episode. But this is, you know, they sort of take it down a notch. And it's a lot more bluesy than it is, you know, trying to keep up the fast pace. And this is where they start to kind of, you know, turn the tides a little bit. You're going to get, after Red Mosquito, you're going to get more of the poppier stuff, the Elderly Woman, the Gibbon a Flying Down, stuff that you can sing along with. So, you know, the way that this set is constructed is for pretty much any sort of fan that is expecting, you know, that big introduction, and then you get back into it and you're still feeling it with some of those popular hits in the middle, and then some more stuff coming at the end that's going to be rare. So, Steve, all this stuff ringing true here? Or?
Yeah. So I'll just say real quick, my favorite Pearl Jam album is No Code. So when they broke out Red Mosquito, that was, again, just another highlight that I did not expect to get, you know, kind of punched in the face with.
And not the only No Code song from the show.
I know. In my first show, you know, I was hoping they would play any, really. So in my first show of this tour, to get that, you know, what, the fifth or sixth song or whatever it is, was amazing. And like you said, the version of it is fantastic as well. You know, I think I was probably the only one. Everybody else was kind of calming down a little bit. And I think I was the only person who was still just, you know, losing their mind during Red Mosquito, which was really cool. And then the classic, what do you call it? Elderly Mosquito? No, when Stone starts to play the wrong intro to Small Town.
He said so. All right, so yeah, they get a little bit of a false start, and he says we just played that one. And they must be in the same tuning or something like that, right?
Yeah, yes.
It sounded like the progression was just a little. You know what? I almost didn't notice it at first, but then I went back and it was like
the crowd is so loud on it that it's almost impossible to.
Something was. I think it was a chord or something, but maybe it was tuning. Could have been tuning.
It was Stone. I believe started to play the beginning of Red Mosquito again instead of starting to play Elderly Woman, because he still had his acoustic. And he turned.
So you were saying he was playing acoustic on Red Mosquito?
I think so.
Huh. It didn't sound like.
Again, this is 15 years ago. I could very well be misremembering, but
because he definitely has the acoustic on Elderly. I know that.
The one part I definitely remember, because I was standing right there looking at it, was he turns to Stone and he goes, We just played that one. So I'm pretty sure it was the beginning of Red Mosquito, when he should have been playing the beginning of Elderly Woman. So that was pretty good.
There's another great line in there too. You guys have been forgiven Americans for years, so
yeah.
Oh, and, yes.
One part of my story that I held on to for exactly this point, actually, the woman that I was dating and went on the trip with me was actually Canadian. So one of the things that may have helped us get a little bit more of a friendly reception from some of the French people was the fact that we had Canadian flags on our backpacks.
That'll help.
Not American flags, because remember, this is all Iraq War era.
Right. Freedom fries and freedom toast. Yeah.
Yeah, so Americans were not terribly looked upon with a lot of kindness at that point, especially in France. With I don't know how old a lot of our listeners are, how much they remember, but France was like the holdout of the the coalition that was trying to go into Iraq. That Bush was trying to get to go into Iraq. So there was a lot of hostility there. So we were like, you know what? Let's just go with we'll go with the Canadian backpacks for that.
Smart choice.
Yeah.
Again, they false start Elderly Woman a little bit with Red Mosquito, and this is sort of their poppier section here. Elderly Woman, Given a Fly Down. Those are some songs you could really sing along with, and I didn't see anything from the three of these songs that was, particularly, stand out from these three. That they're pretty much in the same standard way they usually play them. But man, I think we got to move right ahead to Even Flow, because this to me is a massive, massive highlight from this night. And you were saying 2006, where you thought the band was really at their high point, where they can absolutely do no wrong this year. And 2006 was really when they started doing the drum solos in Even Flow. And how freaking good was this, and how unbelievable is Matt during this song.
Again, I think we talked about some of the other songs. Some people get fed up with Even Flow. I don't understand that at all. That's one song I could hear every show, and you do hear every show, and I still get into it every time like it's my first time. I freaking love hearing Even Flow live, and this was definitely a highlight. Again, because I don't know that I'd seen Matt do such a drum solo as part of it before. So. Very, very cool to see, and he, like you said, he just nailed it. Everything about it was spot on.
Just changing the paces, going from that absolute motoring fast speed to just that boom, 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 and then it's kind of like the steam engine that it picks up. It kind of goes through sort of maybe an upward incline, and then all of a sudden you get the drop, and he's back to absolutely tearing a hole in the set.
Yeah, it's really like it almost I always took it as almost like, all right guys, let's get synced back up. This is our, this is like our entry onto back onto the highway type of thing. Mm. But yeah, whatever it is, whatever it's supposed to be, it just works perfectly. It's great.
And it comes in at only like I think just under 8 minutes. So you get a good jam version of it. You get a good solo. You get a drum solo, but it's also it's easy to listen to. You could listen to it in line with everything else. Kind of, you don't have to like skip past a 12-minute even flow, which can get a little trying for people that listen to this a lot. So this one's great. And Randy, the switch didn't flip like I thought it. Like I thought we get down here, dude.
Oh, really?
Dude, this down it's like straight off the album. It's perfect. It's everything I want in down. And I still have not listened to the down from
311.
Jesus. Now I'm just depressed. Why do you got to bring me in such a bad mood? No, the down. I think Steve mentioned down from Fenway night 1 because we went to night 2. And
that wasn't the best down, yeah.
No, I actually think I might misquote Steve slightly, but the idea I got from it was, down. That was pretty much the downfall of the band, and I'm like, oh boy. So, I don't want to hear that version. So this one was very good.
You'll have to go back to the first ever episode if you wanted to do that, and I don't think at this point any of our listeners are willing to go back that far.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think we played it on that one, did we?
I doubt it.
Yeah, we were dealing with cell phone bootlegs in the primitive
back when they used to play
days.
live shows.
Exactly.
We had to rip everything from YouTube.
Yeah, try to get submissions from people. Does anyone have Even Flow from Fenway Night 2 we could borrow for a show?
Those were legit questions, yeah. And now we literally have, over 1,000 bootlegs to our convenience at any point in time, and it is pretty amazing the evolution that we went through with that. So, okay, so yeah, amazing Even Flow. Both Mike and Matt, they get the shout outs afterwards, and with absolute, we talk about it so much that Ed is just absolutely in awe whenever these guys are playing alongside of him, that he can, especially during Even Flow, just take a step back, watch them do their thing, and just be absolutely wowed that he's gets to have a career playing with these talented musicians. Even Flow kind of transitions the set a little bit, and you get a little bit of just a little bit of a come down with Wish List, and I love the ending to Wish List here, because we get the Wish List endings sometimes where Ed kind of does this little improv thing, and during 2006, from 03 to 08 kind of deal, he would go off and kind of do the spiel of what it would be like if he was president. And usually I kind of brush it off as, all right, he's saying the same things. But this one sort of, man, it just rang with me.
I wish I was the president. I'd apologize to the French. 'Cause most things that Bush these said were lies. America's been hypnotized.
I still, I may be misremembering, so forgive me, but I feel like at one point you guys weren't totally big on Wishlist seeing it live.
Still not.
Yeah.
I'm so hot and cold with it.
It's still one of my favorites to see live, but again, because of what you were talking about, Randy, with the what they used to tag on to the end of Wishlist, again from this era, it was great. It was one of the songs where now I enjoy it, but at the time I would like look forward to it and really hope to see it in every set. And this was, again, this show is so good. This is one of the best versions of it because everything was so like the tension was so high, and like this whole with the war and everything. Like I feel like it was 100 years ago in a way. So much has happened since then.
I was about to say we're fighting over much different things right now. Whether people wear masks in public.
Right, where people are shooting each other because they don't want to wear a mask into the store. Like,
but Steve, they're fine people, very fine people.
It just feels like it feels like we've lost our freaking minds. I don't know. I don't know what I totally lost my train of thought. I don't know what I was trying to say there. I'm sorry. I apologize.
I actually fully understand what you're saying.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't know if it's because I've had a billion different conversations with you before, but I can follow the direction of where you're taking this. So
yeah, I feel like it was like a rallying cry that we could get behind something. This war is fucked up. Like there's one thing that we can like put our efforts toward. Eddie is like out here, kind of giving us like a we're in it together. Let's, this is sort of like something to look forward to and sing about and get behind. Whereas now everything is just such like a miasma of crap that you can't even be like.
There's not one thing.
Here's this one thing we're going to get behind and do something about. It's just like every day is just like, screaming into the void. So,
right.
At the time it was definitely really powerful for me to hear Wishlist, especially when they did this tag.
And yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest Wishlist fan, but I think what is Elderly Woman here, like 2 minutes? You need Wishlist here, or you're going to start killing people because this set list is
right.
Crazy.
Right.
And it is a very good Wishlist. So for a song that I don't care for, I think this one is actually quite good, and I think it's really great in this set. So I'm on board with it.
After you get Wishlist, 3 songs here that I don't have a lot to say about, even though we don't really talk about Worldwide Suicide a hell of a lot. And this was the time for Worldwide Suicide, where it was literally getting played every single night. People might have gotten a little bit tired of it at this point. Within all the shows that they've done, they played it 54 times. That's a lot. That's the only Avocado song that is for sure getting played every night. Maybe Severed Hand is along with that, but even so. But Avocado songs on this show, 3. There are 3 Avocado songs, and they're nowhere near each other. Severed Hand in the beginning, Worldwide Suicide here in the middle, and Comatose completely on the other end at the end.
Besides Irving Plaza, that's probably a record for Avocado songs in a set. Like I can't.
No, well they did Torino.
I probably couldn't pay Eddie Vedder to play a goddamn Avocado song at a show I go to, and we've been to anniversary shows where they never brought out one song from it. So you know my struggle with Avocado.
Yeah,
they know it too.
But the last show that they've done, they had 3 Avocado songs in that show.
Mm-hmm.
They had the Wasteds and they had Comatose. So you got something.
Comatose.
And then the night before they had Army Reserve. So that's one that almost never gets played.
The only thing I'll say real quick about Worldwide Suicide is, again, just that transition from the Johnny Come Home to Worldwide Suicide was...
It makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense, and just had a very, really packed a powerful punch for us as the only Americans and half Americans that we knew anyway in the crowd. It was a lot for us, It was very, very cool.
While pretending not to be American.
Right, exactly.
Well, you follow up Worldwide Suicide. Of course, you continue the theme with Glorified G, and then Satan's Bed. And this is really, it's crazy that we're already at the end of this set here. I don't have a lot to say about Glorified G, Satan's Bed. We had the same exact combo a week ago on the Mansfield show that we did, because that was 2008. Same kind of era, which is kind of crazy that we're doing 2 back-to-back shows with Glorified G, Satan's Bed back-to-back. That wasn't 94, 95. That, almost never happens. But I don't have a whole hell of a lot to say about either of these, but Satan's Bed, at least, that's 24 times that it had been played live at the time. So maybe at this point you hadn't seen it yet. So that might be, a little bit of a talking point there.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think I had, but yeah, it was pretty wild to see. Again, a song that I hadn't seen. I don't think I had seen yet. So, yeah, pretty awesome.
Yeah, I like this Satan's Bed a lot. I didn't, Riffy Porch is, and this is funny. This Riffy Porch is like, it's not even quite there yet.
Oh, this isn't Riffy Porch. This is Porch Blues.
Is this war running through your dead end? Leave a message, at least I could have learned your voice one last time. Daily minefield discord, be my time by you. Would you hit me? Would you hit me?
This is a blues riff wannabe or something. I'm not sure. It wasn't dialed in yet.
Here's the thing.
I actually wanted to ask you guys. Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because actually that kind of ties into something, going on our Patreon this week. If you're not subscribed to our Patreon, head over to patreon.com/live-on-4legs, or search Live on 4 Legs on the Patreon app and subscribe and get all of our exclusive episodes. And we will involve you in an episode for the show or a setlist draft episode. There's a lot of stuff going on over there. So if you like the show and you continue to tune in every week, it's an absolute steal. Help donate to the show. And this week you get the Bridge School 96 shows, which is what we are tying this into here. So on the Bridge School, the second night of that year in 96, they did that Porch version, which is basically what kind of segued into what they would do now, which is what we call on the show Riffy Porch. And what John seems to believe is that it stems from The Who doing what they call My Generation Blues, which is just basically just Pete and Roger, and it's completely slowed down, but more, it's a little bit bouncy, but it's not that punk riff at all. And that's, I can see why that is the inspiration for the riffy or bluesy Porch, because that's, this intro for this version too sounds exactly what they did at Bridge School. So, whether or not it's the best version here live nowadays, of course I want Fast Porch. I want 1, 2, 3, 4. What the fuck is this world? But I also, I accept that they do it, because it's kind of, it's a moment that at the end of the set you can get people clapping and you can get people into it, and it's kind of, it's teeing you up. It's sort of one of those signals, like how Alive is at the end of a set, saying, all right, this is signaling the end here. This is sort of signaling the end of the first chapter to me. And that riffy part is all part of that people can get sort of into it. And it's just a different era. Again, not raw like it was in 93, 94, where Ed is going to jump on the speakers and all that. change it up a little bit. I respect that, even though I like the original so much better.
Yeah, I could buy that. I don't think doing a riffy intro really drives home the point of it being like the end of a chapter, and then you're getting into the encores. I think it'll be just fine the way it is. But
it has more opportunity to involve the fans in with just clapping and
yeah.
You know, they can sing along with it, and you know, Ed sometimes will let the crowd sing "Could Have Heard Your Voice One Last Time."
That's funny too, because I kind of got the feeling when I was listening to it that when he started it, the crowd didn't really know what he was doing at first.
It was very. There
was almost like a language gap there with.
It was not very common at the time. It was very early. This was very early in the stages of Bluesy Porch. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually what I was going to say as well. I think this might have been the first time I heard that. So I think even I was like, wait, what is this song? And then when they changed gears, it was like, oh my God, because Porch is my other favorite Pearl Jam song. So along with Long Road. So
he didn't really have that triplet strumming that he does now that he loves to do. He didn't. Yeah. He tries it a few times here, but it's not quite there yet. So I'm glad he's gotten better at it.
We do have to mention just this version of Porch, though, because I think it was so unique as opposed to other versions of Porch. I have to think in their minds it's like this spacey experimental thing that they're doing. It's like, but Matt is still intense and crazy, and he's keeping up this incredibly fast pace. But
yeah, it's like you keep the time, and we're gonna explore. But we need you here. You stay there, and then we're gonna do this.
With all due respect to Nick Mason, this is Pink Floyd with guest starring with Neil Peart on drums. That's what this is.
Yeah, that's a really good.
Version though, I it lasts about 10 minutes long, and you just sort of get lost in it. But it's not boring at all, and I think I give credit to Matt on that he can make something that is a little bit different and spacey and experimental, and make it feel like it still has that driving force that you want from Porch. So I was happy with this version, outside of the whole riffy stuff.
No, it definitely goes into like laser jam.
Right.
But you're right. The Neil Peart backbone there for sure.
All right, so we have gotten to the encore here, and this is where things start to get a little nuts. And again, not a lot of talking to the crowd. This is usually a point where in later years, Ed will say, cheers to you. Here's a little story about something or other. Here's what I did earlier in the day, yada, yada, yada. They start off the encore right away, and they're just like, all right, fuck it. Here's Fatal. Like, they've played it 100 times. It's the third time that they have ever played it. The last time they played it was in 2003, that amazing Santa Barbara show. And before that, they debuted it at the Benaroya. So it had been 103 shows since they had done it.
Good is he? How warm are his eyes, or ego? Tell messages clearly, hardly grounds for dismissal outright. Grounds for dismissal outright.
Gotta be a massive surprise when they're performing this here, Steve. I would have to think that this is sort of one of these once in a lifetime kind of songs that you're saying, holy shit, I never in a million years would have expected this one.
Absolutely. So to be 100% honest with you, I was not even really all that familiar with the song, but I knew that I had heard it and liked it, and then when they started to play it, I was like it almost took me a second to realize that it wasn't a cover, and then I was like, oh wait a minute, of course I know this song, you know, like, and then when it sunk in and I realized what it was pretty awesome, and you think that's going to be, you know, man, you know, I was hoping to hear, you know, one really rare song on the 4 shows that I got to see, and you think, all right, and we're seeing the most rare one, like right out of the gate in my first show. It's pretty wild stuff.
And it's beautiful too.
Yep.
It's fantastic. This song, 100%. You know, I always say I love Down, but it had no place on Riot Act. This song should have been on Binaural 100%.
100%.
And it sounds fantastic here. And this is 2 out of technically 3 Lost Dogs right now, which is in a set that's like a lot of hits, and it's just fast moving, and they're at their prime here. Like it's just another reason why this is a golden year, and this show is just fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, look, even after this is the 3rd time it's been played. It's only been played 8 times, so there are a couple of shows. I think there was a Worcester show where they played it, and they did it in London in 2018 and Missoula 2018. But really, there aren't a lot of years where they bust this out. Some of these rare ones, it's like, okay, this is a once-a-year kind of song. Fatal doesn't really get that treatment. So, you know, I think we've even covered it on the show 2 or 3 times. So to just have that is kind of crazy that we've been able to talk about it, and it's something I want, I think, for sure.
I think Steve got 2 of the rarest of all time in one show, and he's had Big Wave, so.
And Big Wave.
And I still absolutely love Big Wave. I don't know what Matt is, what his issue is all of a sudden, but I don't want to.
I still love it. I was just I was underwhelmed with the last episode that I did when it was featured. I was just, yeah. I still love it though.
It's like the Christmas present that, you know, you've wanted all year, and you open it up and you're just like, really? It's this? The video game that's just not as fun as everybody said it was.
Oh, a banana. Thank you.
Exactly. All right, another no code one. Off he goes. I thought it was perfect. I thought it was beautifully performed. It's the way that I like. They're not sort of pandering to the crowd. It's not a poppy sing-along. It's not a campfire. It has its folky roots to it. This is 100% in. I love this version. I love when they do it like this.
Yeah, and back-to-back with Fatal again, kind of amping up the emotional, quotient of the show quite a bit. It was pretty great.
Boom sneaks in a pretty nice part in there too. I noticed there wasn't a lot of boom moments in this, but Off He Goes had a nice little boom moment. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Important part in the set here. Black gets a little bit of a false start. Nothing to really kill him about. It's falling with style. We get it. It's cool. But at first, doesn't feel like the most strongest Eddie performance, and you've heard more passionate versions of Black where he's really digging into something really deep, and it was fine. It was good, and I think Mike was really taking charge of this one. But then you get to the tag. You get to the tag is Good Woman from Cat Power, which is not a song I'm very familiar with, but the lyrics are so impassioned that I was able to feel from Ed at this point, I was able to feel that he was tapping into something that he hadn't tapped into in a very, very long time. Subject material that he does not, whether or not it means anything to him anymore, whether or not he feels this way anymore, he's back into this mindset. He's channeling it.
I would 100% agree. I think it's the tag is fantastic, and at the time, I wasn't really listening to Cat Power yet, so I didn't recognize the song, the lyrics, I should say, from being one of her songs, so I thought it was like a poem or something that he had written, and just really enjoyed it. And then, several years later, when I heard the Cat Power song, and I was like, wait a minute. I know those. I know that. It just made it even more powerful in a way, because it was, whenever he finds, it seems like when he finds lyrics or songs that he loves from somebody else, it just shows that he can appreciate somebody else's work and kind of make it his own. And I just think that's a really cool thing to be able to do. And it's awesome when he, even if it's indirectly, promotes other bands and other artists, which is just a really cool thing to do.
Yeah, Black is. I think I've come away from saying take it or leave it with Black, but what I need Black to do is Black needs to really go somewhere. So every Black to me is kind of same old, and it's got to be the tag or the band or Mike or Eddie or the crowd that takes it to the next level, or it's going to be take it or leave it for me. It's going to be same old. So, I definitely agree. It is definitely elevated to a point in this one, because it starts off as Black, which is great, and it's always great to get, because you hope that it's taken to a new level. And the great thing about Black is that every time they do that, a lot of the times it's kind of something you wouldn't expect or haven't seen before, whether it be the crowd you're with or the tag they do or how they play the song. There's always this kind of mystery at the end of this song, and that's kind of what I look forward to with it. So yeah, this was great. This is a great example of that.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments in this show for sure. And I kind of look, I agree and disagree with that sentiment, where I think Black is sort of one of those par for the course type songs where there's no miss when it comes to Black, but, an average Black is better than an average, I don't know, My Father's Son by 1,000 percentage points. But it also, there are versions that absolutely separate themselves from the pack. And I think that had this tag not have happened, this song doesn't have that separation at all.
I like to work through Black where the beginning to me is just always kind of like, okay, it's kind of like the smooth ride, and then you get to the point where you know something's going to go down, and you hope for it, you know?
Right. Yeah. No, I think they nailed the landing on this. I thought it was absolutely perfect. It's like I said, one of the best moments in the show. So, all right, those are the three sort of the slow burn openers for the encore, and then you only get two more in the first encore. There's more songs in encore 2 than there is in encore 1, which is very odd and a lot different. And maybe time-wise they both match up because there are a lot more shorter songs in encore 2. Black is about 10 minutes long, so okay, it evens itself out somewhere. But I Believe in Miracles and Alive ends the set, and sort of the thing, I Believe in Miracles was fine. I had nothing severe on it where it's different or more special than other versions. But my one thing with Alive, and especially, a point for you, Steve, is that you kind of sort of expect it to be that penultimate kind of song near the end of the set. So you're getting it here, and you have Alive off the board, Black off the board, Porch off the board, which are usually later in set songs that are those, that captivating moment where the band is gearing up to either close or gearing up for something big, and those are off the board at this point. So in your eyes, are you thinking like, what the hell are they going to do in this encore 2? I couldn't even think. And even something like a Why Go and Do the Evolution off the board, which could be in those spots too. I couldn't even think of what would be possible for the second encore.
To be honest with you, I think at that point I was so just tired that I wasn't even really keeping track of what had been played and what hadn't been played. So I don't know if I was even thinking that far ahead, but I was thinking after when they closed with Alive in the first encore, I feel like I might have been concerned that we were only going to get one encore, just because, like you said, it closed with such a like a tremendous, Black and Alive. Black, I Believe in Miracles stuck in there, and then Alive. You're kind of like, oh man, yeah. I wasn't like going through songs and thinking like, what are they going to play? But I was thinking like, that was such a dynamic end. What else? What are they going to come out and do? So, yeah, I don't know if I was quite on this page that you're talking about, but it definitely struck me as an odd or a different way to end the first encore.
I was going to ask if you were standing there like, all right, this is a big ender. Do they keep going in Europe, or is this the end of the show?
That's a really good point, Matt. That's the other thing I was thinking was, I don't know if I don't know how long they can play in Europe. Maybe they have like an early curfew or something.
How do you do it over here?
Right? Yeah, exactly.
You see, over in Canada, where I'm from,
pay the venue. Yeah, can you just pay the venue to go longer, like in Canada, or do we got to get out of here?
Oh, it was in Canada. No.
It's a good way to cap off Encore 1, though. I love when they can play around with Alive. We did it a couple weeks ago where Alive was the 8th song in the set, and it wasn't, an early 90s show where you don't have a lot to play for. I think 2000.
Oh, okay. Well,
so
everything was a little strange in 2000.
Yeah, and they were kind of, this was before Roskilde, and they were kind of off from Alive a little bit, and they weren't really into the song as it was anyway with the curse and all of that. But play around with it, put it in different spots. Let's see if things work. They even opened with it at one point, so try it, and then it brings unpredictability for later in the set, which a lot of this here is very much unpredictability. Encore 2, here we go. Opener with Last Exit, unpredictable. I don't know the last time I've seen Last Exit in an encore, nevertheless an encore 2, and they're opening the floodgates right away, and it's like, what else is this leading to right here? And it goes from Last Exit into Leash, which for you, Steve, has to be a massive, massive moment, because this is really, as much as this is the Avocado tour, this is really the Leash reunion tour. It comes back at that Boston show in 06, and it makes 20 appearances this year after not showing up on a show since 1995. So you know that they're bringing this back in the set list. Is this on your mind that maybe just one of these 4 shows that there could be a Leash somewhere here?
Yeah, I had heard that, or I had heard that they were playing it, or I knew they were playing it, I should say, but it's still like it was so rare before that. Then you think like maybe it's going to come up, maybe it's not. So you kind of just hope that it does. And then to follow Last Exit, which is such a great song. That was a tremendous one too. Because again, I'm thinking like, oh man, are they going to have to end early? And then they come back out with these 2 songs back to back, and it was a great way to start the encore, the second encore.
I appreciate the rarity, of course. I don't know why I never liked Last Exit. Not that I didn't like it; it just wasn't a go-to. But it's so cool. It's so cool here because they're really kind of really playing around and they're flipping things left and right. The rarity of Leash is great, but I still don't like Leash, and it comes from a time where they're kind of, they were doing different things, and some things worked and some things didn't, and I don't think Leash works. The rarity is cool. I'm sure it was very cool to get at this show. I don't care. I don't care for the song.
A long time ago, we did a thing called an Evolution episode on our Patreon, and this was probably our first or second episode that we did Leash. And we mentioned that, it works so well in the raw early years where they're playing this in clubs in 92, where it would be Leash and Porch and close the show. And then after Versus kind of came out, they were like, okay, Animal is a great song. Elderly Woman is a great song. Dissident, we're going to play all these other songs from Versus. And they sort of left Leash behind because they weren't in that mindset anymore. Leash is really more of a 10 era song than it is a Versus era song. So
I support that decision.
Yeah, for sure. I look, you get this version of Leash in 2006. They don't even, it's Lucky Face. They don't even say get out of my fucking face. They say get out of my lucky face. And that's stayed that way since then. But look, I think it's more of an homage to their history instead of like, okay, we're going to go back and play the same way that we did in 92. They're never going to do that. It's just sort of a, we appreciate the fans and we appreciate, their input and how much they want a song like this to be put back into the fold. We'll give it to you. It's not going to be the same way. It's not going to have that angst and anger to it, but and it's accepted. I think everybody just wants to hear it, no matter how it's played.
Maybe what they're saying is, you're lucky you're getting it, you fuckers. So stop.
Get out of our lucky faces.
So, as someone who bought Versus the day that it came out, and just remember that song, just changing my worldview in some ways. To hear it live was pretty awesome. Even if it doesn't quite sound the same, so it wasn't played with quite the same intensity, or quite the same style as it had in the past. Being able to see that live was pretty epic. And then again, something that we've kind of talked about off the podcast. It also was just another thing at the time. There was so much anger, just in our society about things, for them to be to break that song back out at that moment, kind of felt like another rallying cry type of, you're not going to fucking surveil me without a warrant, all this shit that was happening at the time. It just had a lot of them breaking that song back out, had a lot of impact for me, kind of just showing that, they're they're not like, making minimum wage like, a lot of people are or whatever, but they're still in the fight with us, and they realize that what's happening in that time is important. So let's break this song back out and have it be something that signifies that to us. And well, I don't know if that was their intention or not, but it definitely felt like it. And that
You never know. Yeah. It's like everything has a reason and nothing has a reason. It could have just been, hey, Matt's never played Leash, so let's just try it. Or it could have been, it had this really philosophical idea of why Leash should be back in the set list. But I will say that they did play it 20 times in 2006, and since 2006, they've only played it 21 times. So that was the year to see it. I've been fortunate enough to see it twice. So, you can hit on it at some points, but I know a lot of people that, this is the one that they still need from Versus, that it's that kind of rare on that. So, Better Man follows this up, and this is so straightforward that there's no tag, there's no save it for later. It sort of just ends, and you're like, oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah,
exactly.
cool.
This was just horrible. This is the one. This is the one that I was talking about, where it's like Eddie it's like his passion fell out of his ass or something. And it's funny that you bring up the tag, because I had just listened to, maybe a day or two before, I was going through Let's Play 2. Let's Play 2 Better Man has no tag. It's pretty straightforward. It is one of the most amazing versions I've ever heard. This is the complete opposite of that, and I was really disappointed, especially being so late in the set, Encore 2. It's not just Eddie. I feel like the whole band just wasn't really there for it.
Well, here's the thing, and it ties into sort of the theme that we have for this Encore 2. It's sandwiched in between two of the two Freebird songs that they have, the songs that the crowd is shouting at them the most. It's sandwiched in between Leash and Dirty Frank. And especially on Dirty Frank's case, where they've only played it once that year, it's really, they're experimenting and they're busting it out, and they would never bust it out again. So on their minds, and this is, if I were to guess, they're probably just thinking, okay, get through this to get to Dirty Frank, because we got to get Dirty Frank right.
But that sucks, because we hear memorable, iconic versions of a pretty iconic song to get to a song that defines the reason why you leave songs off albums. And that's what disappoints me.
Well, look,
Dirty Frank is the example of why you leave songs off albums. It's terrible. I don't chase it. I don't want it. I don't care about it. I would much rather have had this Better Man be something like a Let's Play 2 Better Man, because that one is just bonkers, off the wall good.
Here's what most of you have been waiting for, tuning in to hear us talk about, because it's so rare that we ever talk about it, that we've only really talked about it once. And that was when we did the Orpheum show. Actually, twice, because we did that New Year's Eve show, too. That's deep within our Patreon.
3 times, because we did get a tease of it at Fenway.
Yeah, I count that as conversation, but
it was riffy Frank. We'll call it that.
All right, so look, I got a lot of different thoughts on this here, and I think my early thought is that it's always going to be that song that the longtime lifer is going to chase, because it's first of all, look at the show. It's Marseille, France. Who's at this show? Steve, you're lucky enough that you picked this show and you hit it. That's hitting sort of a lottery, a jackpot there. Most hardcore fans are waiting for your Philly, your Chicago, your New York, your Boston, your LA, your Vegas, whatever, Seattle, and they don't bust it out. at any of those places. They busted it out at the Gorge earlier that year, but still, that's my point here is that it takes this kind of venue to bring this song out, and it makes their blood boil. It's like, I went to a show in St. Paul, Minnesota. They could have done it there. That's the equivalent of, Marseille, France. I could have gotten it there. And it's sort of telling you that anything can happen at any single Pearl Jam show. And yes, this show is great without Dirty Frank. Don't get me wrong. With Dirty Frank, it doesn't change my rating at all. It wouldn't change it without it. But people aren't talking about Marseille from 2006 without this song in the set. They just aren't because of how rare it is and how much everybody chases it. And they chase it for obvious reasons. It's their goofiest, weirdest song that's a Weird Al parroting the Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's, about a cannibalistic bus driver. It has all of those elements. And even, you got to think, especially Stone, a guy like Stone, just talented, beautiful musician, just such a talented songwriter. You got to think, in his mind, whenever that guy at a show gives him the Freebird treatment and says, Dirty Frank, he's got to be thinking in his mind, we've written so many beautiful, beautiful songs, and you want that one? Like, there's got to be some just confusion there, but it makes a lot of sense. It's just that supply and demand sort of deal that, because they don't supply it, it's going to get demanded more often. And I still believe that to this date, however long they have 10, 20 years left, we are going to get this at least one more time somewhere. I don't know where it will be. It probably won't be in any of those places like I mentioned before. It'll probably be an equivalent to a Marseille, but I think that they will give in one more time for this. But again, with all that being said, Steve, you got Dirty Frank. So there's an audible whoa from the crowd in this.
Got a recipe for anything to be wanted to pass, so she relaxed. And now that little group is getting chopped up in a bag. I got a cover full of flexi fresh ingredients. Very careful of this ain't about expedient. Release me or release. Bus drivers all ahead and on your feet and hang. A Dirty Frankie, a Dirty Frank. Oh, Dirty Frankie, yeah. Keeps it clean, keeps it copacetic. The little boys and girls are his are all collected. They're not crazy, a per se, just a little strange. When they get hungry, city state, the tiny will continue. Stadiums, tiny clubs, every venue. Here's boss, your trust. There goes another turn in the crowd. Dirty Frank, oh, Dirty Frankie.
So the funny thing about this is, Matt, I don't remember if it was you I said it to, or if it was our friend Suzette that I said it to. But before I left for my trip, somebody actually asked, what's the one song that you hope to get while you're over there? And I said Dirty Frank, not remotely thinking that it would happen, just completely as a joke. And the first show of the tour that I'm going to see, and they busted out in the second encore. I was like, I freaking lost my mind. I couldn't believe it. I don't even think half the crowd was singing, or most of the people were kind of like, what? Didn't even really know what it was.
All right.
It was awesome. It was awesome. And, it might be part of the, being an early-ish fan, and kind of, when you heard Dirty Frank, or when somebody gave you Dirty Frank, it was like you were getting some sort of like secret club handshake or something. So, you know, oh, I know this song that not a lot of other Pearl Jam fans, know. Especially way back in the very beginning. It always holds a special place for me. I don't know if that's why. I feel like it's such a weird, goofy song, but it's also like fun and well written in a way. I feel like I would like it if I heard it today for the first time, but I can't really say. It might have that. It might just be because of the nostalgia factor, that's associated with it. But whatever the reason, I love Dirty Frank. I was super excited to see it. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, Randy, you're right. People aren't going to talk about this show because it's an incredible show, which is a travesty. They're going to talk about it because 100%. Of the song.
Right.
And I think people are lying if they say they're chasing the song because they think it's a good song. They chase it for the rarity because this song, there is nothing interesting. It's boring.
What?
I really don't think there's one redeeming quality.
No, I cannot agree with you. I have to interrupt you on that. That's no way, man.
It is
actually boring.
Listen to horribly boring.
I mean, have you heard "Give It Away"? It's the same tune.
I never said "Give It Away" was a good song.
Oh God.
At least Flea plays more than 2 bass notes in it. But this song, come on, guys, you got it. I know this is. If you're putting on for the show, I understand, but be real for a second. This is not a good song.
I 100% disagree with you. It is a good song.
It is.
It depends on what you mean by a good song.
It's not trying to be a good song. It's not trying to be Black or
I think
Long Road.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna say it's so rare and they don't play it because they're embarrassed of it.
I don't disagree with you. I kind of. Yeah, they might be embarrassed by it, but they don't really have a reason to. I think most of the embarrassment is just the confusion of why does everybody want this song so bad? I think to them, they think this is one of their lower totem pole kind of songs. It's just a joke. It's about a bus driver
they want it for the rarity.
But it's
I don't disagree with that
because you enjoy the song.
But
I think there are people that do enjoy the song though. That I don't agree with. But yes, I do think that people want it more for the bingo card or the checklist than they do to be like, Dirty Frank is in my top 10. Like, no, I don't.
That's why I have no interest in this song at all because I don't. If this song was like the Holy Grail, that was, I mean, just the best song ever written, that would be different.
The best song, like the most beautiful, it's not going to be a Holy Grail, right? Because they're going to play it if it's the best song.
Right. And if they're not playing it, there's a reason for that.
But that doesn't mean it's not a good. So okay,
it's not. So
you can have good songs that are good because they're like masterfully written and have incredible lyrics and a great a great tune or whatever you want to, however you want. But then you can also have good songs that are good because they're just like they're fun and you can listen to it and enjoy it and laugh at the ridiculous lyrics, and they're not like a bad song to listen to. So like I still whenever Dirty Frank comes on my Pearl Jam, when I just play my Pearl Jam songs randomly and Dirty Frank comes on, I still listen to it and dance and sing along because it's a fun song.
It's a nostalgia act that's sort of a thank you for a couple people that, yes, over the years and years and years have been asking for it hundreds and hundreds of time, and the one day that they don't ask for it is the day that they get it. So to me, that's okay, and it's going to come back soon, but don't ask for it, and you shall receive. I will say that.
Trust me, I will not be asking for it.
I think we've gathered that at this point. Okay, all right. Let's wrap up the set. We finish off our third and final Avocado song is Comatose before Fucking Up, and I got really not much on Comatose. It was like a 2:20 song and rip right into Fucking Up. But again, like it, no talking, no nothing like that. And it ends with Fucking Up, which is great, and it's such a good version of Fucking Up. But it's bucking that tradition of the bread and butter that we always talk about. There's no Alive here. There's no Rockin' in the Free World. We're not ending with Ledbetter. I got to think though, this being the first of 4 shows, and they close with this. To you, it's kind of like it's sort of the to be continued. Like, yes, we end on this high point, and you don't want Ledbetter to sort of end your first show because you want that later on. That you want that for the last show. But this is a good one to leave off and wait for Paris, right?
Absolutely, and I absolutely love Fucking Up. So that was like you again. I said it before. You couldn't really ask for much more out of that. It was such a great way to end the show. And to your point about like Ledbetter would have been like a closing chapter or whatever you want to say, but this was like, yeah, get ready for 3 more shows before you head back to the States. So definitely a very cool way to end. Or to Canada, excuse me, right, to Canada.
Steve, I'm going to have to disagree with you one more time. Give me Ledbetter, and you'd never think you'd hear me say that, right? Because I fucking hate Fucking Up. I hate this goddamn song so much.
I never understood that take.
What
That's
in the?
such a
What are you
bad
guys
take.
talking about? What?
Dude, I hate this song.
That's such a poor, poor take.
When they all
What
come in with the
are you
why do I on
talking
the
about?
chorus, it's grating, man. It drives me nuts. Can't stand it.
Wow.
And I'm not a Neil Young fan, so. But this song,
I'm a huge Neil Young fan, but still, wow.
The song is lazy and just
This is mean.
so boring.
That is unbelievable. I do not. Wow.
I don't agree with any word that you just said. This was a fantastic version.
Never liked it. Never will.
Unbelievable. I loved it. I thought I was so happy to see it. Because, I'm trying to remember back. I don't remember exactly, but I think this was the first time I saw them close with Fucking Up. And the only other songs I'd heard them close with, they closed with Smile in Greensboro when I saw them there. But then it was either Baba or Ledbetter. So to get like a new closer and a Neil Young song and I think a very good Neil Young song was fantastic. So I can't imagine not enjoying Fucking Up. It's great.
And to end on a song that you start the show with such a prominent, Tom hitting Matt Cameron on the drums, and it finishes off the same way with that boom 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 boom.
Yeah, exactly. How does that not get you fired up? What are you talking about?
It's such a great bookend. I'd like that they didn't go with Rockin' in the Free World and no Ledbetter Indifference. I feel like it fit the identity for the show perfectly. Let's cap this off. Everybody, let's pick 3 of your favorite moments from the show, starting off with the man who was there and got to witness the whole thing.
From the show specifically, I would say, forgive me, but Dirty Frank has got to be super high up there. Opening with Long Road, of course, to kick off my 4 show set in Europe with Long Road was just amazing. And then let's see, I would have to say again the probably the tag on the end of Wishlist into Worldwide Suicide was definitely one of the best parts. I thought that hit really hard for me. And did a really great job. And then, of course, getting to be on Stone's side for all of that and seeing all of it, pretty up close, pretty close was pretty great.
Mine are easy. Definitely Severed Hand and Corduroy because of Cameron, my kind of favorite star of the show on this one. Fatal was beautiful, and pretty much just summing it all up, just the whole flow, it's just a good set.
I love this version of Long Road. I think it might be one of my favorite versions I've ever heard before. Something you're just not going to get a version like this at most other shows. They're going to go in a completely different direction, but the way that they handled it was just so unique and give it to me every single time. I loved the end of Wishlist. I loved Corduroy. I loved Even Flow. I love the drum solo section in Even Flow. There were so many great things about the show. When you can say more than 3 things, then it's a win for everybody. And I think that's what we have here. If we're narrowing it down to 3, I'm going to go Long Road, the end of Wishlist, and I'm going to go... Oh, Whipping was so good too. I'm going to go the end of Black. The 2 tags from this show, Wishlist and Black, were both just tremendous, and 2 things that I'll take out of this and remember more than a cannibalistic bus driver. But
that's really interesting.
Right.
You guys went more for the low key parts, and I liked the kind of more high energy parts. But
it was more. Yeah, it was more of a high energy show, but that's why those moments stood out. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe that's why. All right, let's give this a little bit of a rating here.
So if I remember correctly, I gave the Berlin show a 10. Way back when I was, I think it was the first time I was on.
Yeah.
I think I gave that show a 10. So I'm going to give this one. Am I allowed to give it a 9.5?
Yeah, of course.
Sure.
That Berlin show, there was something special about it that I don't think this one quite matched up to. Being indoors instead of outdoors maybe was the deciding factor there, but it just was a little bit shy of that Berlin show. That's still my my number 1 all-time show, so I'll give this one a 9.5.
Well, Berlin was like the greatest Black of all time, right? That we covered.
Oh yeah.
That's hard to rate, against for sure.
Yeah.
This is everything's played top notch. Yeah, there's a few things that I didn't love, but it's interesting. It kicks ass. It's fast. Great listen. I give this a 9 for sure.
Yeah, I can't give this anything under a 9, and I'm in between 9 and 9.5, and try to base it off of other shows that I've given certain ratings to. This could be a 9.5, and I'd be okay and confident saying this is a 9.5. I'm totally cool with that, because you get, from a historic standpoint, it's part of the Leash reunion tour, and Dirty Frank, of course, is notable. Whether or not, look, I might give this a 9.5 without Dirty Frank. I think I even said before I would. It's that good of a show. Dirty Frank, as far as performance-wise, doesn't make or break this show for me. I think it's other things that really push this over the edge, like mentioned before, the Long Roads and Black and Wishlist and Even Flow, Whipping, Corduroy, all those. But yeah, there's sections in the show, it can really be sectioned out, where that early beginning is just all motoring through, and it's Cameron and it's Mike and it's everybody gelling together, and then you get some poppier stuff in the middle, and then you get some rarer stuff to the end. And yeah, the show pretty much has everything. It's as close to perfect from 2006 as there is. So this was an excellent show for anybody that doesn't have the bootleg. Go out, find it, get it. If you email us, we'll send it to you. I know we always do that, so we'll do that. And perfection. It's great. It was great to have both you back on, and we got to do this more often as much as we can. And obviously, there's more time now. Next week, we're going to do the Burn show. That was part of this little stretch. So do you want to come back and at least, you don't have to do what we did today and do the full episode, but give us like 15 minutes and talk a little bit about in between Marseille to Bern?
Absolutely. I'd love to.
Great. Let's do that then. We'll get you both back on and we'll revisit some of these conversations. So, Bern, Switzerland, as we continue on our Around the World series next week, another 2006 show. And really, as we go into June, there's a lot of trends here. There's really only 3 years that we're really touching on. I know last week we did Mansfield 2008. The week before that we did Prague 2000. So those are all the years that we're doing up until July. It's only 2000, 2008, and 2006. And it kind of... it didn't purposefully work out that way. Only Marseille and Bern did, because I wanted these back to back, because we've never done really shows that were back to back in the same spots. So just a little bit of an experiment there. But until we get to our Wrigley shows in July, we are going to do mostly shows from those 3 years. So get ready, get excited for those. More countries, everything that's going on, especially on Patreon. Again, if you want to join up on Patreon, patreon.com/live on 4 legs. Bridge School 96 Night 2 will be out this week, and more set list drafts will be coming soon. And I think we have the Immortality Evolution episode that is going to be, in the not so distant future, sometime in June. Also, if you sign up today, we are doing our bootleg of the month giveaway. The 4th of every month we will send everybody that's a patron, we will send them a bootleg of a show that we're going to cover later on in the year, or later on in the month, I should say. So if that's something that, you really want to get your bootleg collection back to full force, and you listen to the show constantly and you can't get enough and you want more, there's more where all of that came from, and your support is absolutely appreciated 100%. And trust me, it's put into something real good. So again, thank you both for coming back, and it had been a while, but we love you both. And anytime, Matt, you got to come back to duel with John. I think that's, a long time coming there.
Well, I don't have any gigs until 2021, so
we got it. Well, we're doing that Wrigley show. Do you want to come back for the Wrigley show?
Yeah, I'll come back for the one that I was at. Night 2. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll do that.
That's got a good Better Man. and
it doesn't have fucking up, so.
And it doesn't. And it was Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Better Man's like number 4 in that set list. It's awesome.
I think you're right. It's super early.
That was a weird show. That was great.
But didn't they play Oceans? We have to do a show with Oceans with you? I just don't want to listen to him do that again. Jeez. Too much negativity. I thought we got rid of all that.
If you want...
Pearl Jam has a million songs. I don't like 4 of them, and they're in every show. So
he's outspoken about the ones he doesn't like. All right, that wraps things up over here. So thank you all for tuning in to this extraordinarily long but entertaining episode. So this may be the end. We're here, but not for much longer. And although we may be parting ways, I miss you already, and I miss you always. For Randy, Matt, and Steve, and Marseille 2006, and a little bus driver we like to call Frank, shut your mouth. I'm just talking about Dirty Frank. We shall see you back next week for Bern, Switzerland 2006.